Hi there, this is ELB. Uh, Even my second video had audio problems, so I've tried increasing the gain a bit for this. Hopefully it doesn't sound even as quiet as the last one. Maybe it will, I don't know. Honestly, I'm just messing with it between videos to see how it comes out. Alright, so last time we got character direction working, as well as a dodge or dash button. You can see that simple dodge. However, we have one issue now. If you're moving too slow, the player direction doesn't change, and the reason for that is simply because we are setting a sort of artificial, what's the term I'm looking for? An artificial dead zone that helps us ensure that the direction is not automatically set to 0 when the stick goes back to 0. So right now what I'm thinking is, instead of using GameMaker's dead zone functionality, I will set it back to 0 and use my own dead zone functionality, which will then affect movement as well as player direction. So let's get started. Give me just a moment, I'm trying to get some music I'm listening to in the background to not be too loud. Okay. So we set the axis dead zone. Let's just comment this out for now and give this a test, see how it runs real quick. Oh, come on. There we go. So you can't see, of course, but I'm not really moving the stick. It is simply wiggling it makes the player move in a certain direction. So let's fix that. So we had it set to 0.3. Let's just copy this over and see how this works. So already we're not having player movement. It's simply wiggling the stick around a little bit with its looseness, doesn't do anything. But the moment we get any movement whatsoever, it also changes the player direction, which is exactly what we want. Oh. Don't know if you saw that a moment ago, but the stick had moved far enough in one direction where, or from the whiplash, I guess you could say, from the spring, where it made the player face the other direction. It only happened once though, so for now I'm not really going to worry about that. Alright. So we have our movement, we have our angles, we have our dash button. So what the heck else would we even add to this, right? It's clearly the best game already. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to change this up real quick. I'm going to make it so that if the arrow is facing a certain direction, it'll draw behind the player. If it's facing another direction, it'll draw... Well, no, it should just be behind the player all the time, shouldn't it? Let's fix that right now. There we go. Okay. So obviously most games are based around some sort of combat mechanics. Um, for this game, ideally, I'd like there to be, both melee weapons as well as ranged weapons. I think the easiest one to at least start on would be ranged weapons. Um, so let's at least get the basics of a combat system going. First off, we're going to have this. OBJ parent enemy. Now, what this is going to be is it is the basis of a hierarchy system using GameMaker's parent functions. Or not parent functions, but parent system, where I can have any enemy that I then want to create, and as long as its parent is OBJ parent enemy, it will have all the necessary code in it already, essentially, to function as an enemy. So let's just start with that. And then, here, let's create a group for this. OBJ dummy. I'm imagining like a scarecrow or something for this. So let's just do that. It's cliche enough, right? Oh. Okay. Oh, nope, that's not how that works. And let's give him, I don't know, a green jacket or a green t-shirt. There we go. We have a simple dummy. SPR enemy dummy. Had I just called the OBJ dummy? I'm gonna fix that. So personally, I like to have the names of things indicate what they're supposed to be in more of than just like a name sense, if that makes any sense. So if, say, I were to create an enemy in a game called Bob, Bob would not simply be called Bob, as in the object Bob would not simply be called Bob. He'd be called OBJ enemy Bob, or OBJ enemy gangster Bob, or something like that. Something that shows the hierarchy of what he is and what he's supposed to be. Simply to help me keep things organized. Oh, I did not fix that. OBJ enemy dummy. Perfect. Actually, we're just doing this with a step event. So, let's start firing arrows. You know what? I should just create an arrow sprite if I'm actually going to do that. SPR arrow. Edit sprite. Oh. Oh, arrow is already a SPR projectile arrow. Perfect. Probably doesn't need to be 32 by 32. So, well, Yeah, no. So let's make this 16 by 16. And once again, remember that what do you call it? The way GameMaker deals with angles and with rotation is that 0 is to the right, 90 is up, 180 is left, and 270 is down. So, if 0 is the right, we're going to do this. Let's give it that deep, deep brown. There we go. We have ourselves a simple arrow. Only problem is the arrow's origin needs to be around the center so that it can properly rotate. We don't need precise collision checking, but that bounding box should be just fine. It will rotate with the object. So, you know what, let's organize this real quick. OBJ projectile arrow. There we go. So, if we were to fire this arrow right now, it would not do anything, obviously, but more importantly, it would not rotate. So, let's fix that. When it's created, I think we just need, no. Is it instance angle? Let's see. Instances. We're not going to objects because that's properties of a single type of object, whereas an instance is one of said object within a room, which there can be multiple of course. So instance properties. Image angle. Is it just how the sprite is drawn? Okay, that's all fine and dandy, but sprite width, sprite height, sprite index, solid persistent object index. Yeah, I think this will work, but let's actually see if that's true. So, image index. Oh, nope. Image rotation angle, was it? Equals. There we go. That's all we need. So what will arrow angle be? Arrow angle will be set by the player when it's created. Yeah. Okay. So, if gamepad check or button check pressed 0 GP. Oh, what is it? Let's find out. button threshold. I think there's something, or I'm pretty sure the shoulder triggers are analog as opposed to digital, so you can have a range of how much they're being pressed. For all analog buttons is 0. The default threshold for all analog buttons is 0.5, with the range being from 0 to 1. Huh. I apologize for my quietness once again. Alright, well, let's just give this a go. So we do indeed want GP shoulder RB. There we go. For now, let's just not worry about whether you're dodging or anything, and say instance create x, y, no, x plus 16, y plus 16, so that it's at the center of the body, obj arrow, projectile arrow. So, that's cool and all, but so far we have one little problem. We have not actually set the angle of this projectile arrow. So something that GameMaker can do is I can say var arrow ID equals, because instance creates returns a real, and that real is the ID of the object that you just created. So var arrow ID dot arrow angle, I think it was, equals what was it, just player angle? I think it's just player angle. Where are you, player angle? Player direction. So let's check real quick again what this was. It was arrow angle. Cool. Alright, so the arrow will not move right now, but that's okay. We don't need it to move. At least not yet. Oh. Image angle not set before reading it. Really? Or... Oh. Oh, I see. Okay, so because it was created, it went through its create event. Alright, so it would take that from the image angle. But the problem, of course, is that it was just created, which means it has to be looking for that variable already. It has to be looking for the arrow angle already. And so it essentially goes create the arrow, then the arrow's create event happens between these two lines, and then this happened, which means it was looking for a variable that did not exist yet. So, oh, wrong thing. So while this will be changed shortly thereafter, now we have a new problem. So if it's looking for the arrow angle, then, and it's only doing that in the create event, now we have a new problem, or now that is our new problem. So instead, how about let's have the arrow set its own angle. So arrow angle equals obj player, was it? No, obj test figure dot player direction. Meaning, test figure does not need to do it. Meaning we don't need that. So we should be fine and dandy. Look at that, creating arrows that go nowhere. Which is exactly what's supposed to happen. Alright. So, arrows need to move, don't they? They also need to have a life, as in they will vanish eventually, or if going off screen, or if hitting something. So, let's do that. We don't need the create event, we need the step event. Alright, so first off, the arrow needs to move, you know, however many spaces per step, per frame even. So, actually, let's set an arrow speed. So, arrow speed equals 20. Perfect. That's all we need. So, for I equals 0, then I is less than arrow, or while I is less than arrow speed, I plus plus. Okay, so this isn't like with moving the player, where we are doing it an amount based off of the tilt of the analog stick. So instead, let's do this. Oh. X movement equals length dir x length dir y. Alright, so this one will be, of course, just 1, because we're only checking we can optimize this just a little bit, more than likely. Well, yeah, no, we can do that. That should be fine. 2, and so the direction, it would be arrow angle. Alright, so 2 arrow angle. Then, of course, x plus equals var x movement, y plus equals var y movement. So we could just as easily do x plus equals length dir x to arrow angle, but this keeps things just a little bit simpler and easier to read. So we should actually label this. Okay. Let's test it. Cool. Look at that thing fly. It's going right from the center of the player. Just as it's supposed to. Sweet. But now we have one new problem. It needs to actually, you know, collide with stuff. So let's have it collide with walls first off. Okay. Alright. So it's moved that many So if place meeting x, y, obj block instance destroy, which means it'll be destroying itself. Now we could have an event happen when it destroys itself, but we're not going to worry about that for now. Instead, we're going to do this. So alarm set. So 0, let's set that for 3-second life, which would be 90 frames. And then add event, alarm 0, control. Okay, and that does that. Technically we could also do that with this, just dragging that in there, but, well, it doesn't really matter, to be honest. Sometimes I use drag and drop for real quick stuff like that, but it just depends. So, let's try this. It should go for a while, and then, oh, was it hitting the wall? I think it was. Here. So we know that it's going and hitting something and then not continuing. Let's set this to 30 real quick to make sure it's actually destroying itself. And it's destroying itself after 1 second. It's not passing through the walls, which is exactly what it's not supposed to do. Perfect. So, we've done that. Now what else do we want to do? Well, let's have it also be able to collide with x, y, obj, parent, enemy. So I have no code there yet, but we will, well, we can at least do this for now. Instance destroy. Destroy. There we go. We're destroying it. Okay, so let's at least put a little bit of code in here. Control. Oh, we need an action, or an event, of course. Draw. So for now, let's at least do draw self, just because I might remove that in the future, just in case. Well, I'll probably remove that in the future, simply because many enemies would probably have more complicated drawing routines. Alright, so draw self, and now what the heck else are we gonna draw? Well, let's go with at least, I was gonna say a health bar, but for now we don't need to overcomplicate things, so let's do draw text. Actually, here, let's actually go through the text drawing functions. So, GameMaker at least allows for some basic options when it comes to drawing your text. You can set the font, of course, you can set the align, you can set the align, which, as you can see, align is the horizontal alignment. So this one sets it pretty much what you might expect. You know, in MS Paint and GIMP and probably Photoshop. I don't actually know, I've never used it. It normally has this box that you put the text in, and then it goes from the top left, which would be FA left, and then FA top. So instead of doing that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do FA bottom and FA center, so that I can easily align it above the character or the enemy. So draw set the line. What was it that we wanted for this one? We wanted FA bottom. Oh. Also, for anyone curious how I'm bringing up the stuff for the documentation for that real quick, in GameMaker you can just middle click and it brings it right up. If I were to middle click draw self, it would bring up draw self. Oh. Cool. So for now I'm not going to worry about font, and for now I think I can assume that it's going to be drawing at the color black. Here, let's just do this anyway. Okay, draw text. So we want its X and Y origin is gonna be the top left, so 0 and 0. So there's a relatively simple way to get around this. We could do X plus 16, since we already know that the object is 32 by 32. We could also use an average of the B box, which the B box is the bounding box, aka, you know, the hitbox. So for now, I'm just going to do X plus 16, Y plus 16. Actually, we don't want it right in the center. We're just going to do Y then. And then the text is going to be string HP. So what the string function does is it simply transforms a variable into a string. So turns a real number into a string, that real number being the HP. So obj dummy, all we need to do here is create and have his HP equal 100, or, you know, whatever other number we need. And as you probably know, HP stands for health points. Okay, so we will know that we're hitting an enemy, of course, but we have one other problem. Because right when it hits the enemy, it needs to decrease the HP by, you know, however the hell much. So you might think, okay, well, we can just do the same place meeting on the enemy that says X, Y, OBJ, projectile arrow. But the problem with that is that the way this works is that it'll do all this movement in this own code block, and it'll have destroyed itself by the time the scarecrow gets around to searching for an arrow to be touched by. So place meeting only returns a boolean, aka it returns true or false depending upon whether or not it's indeed meeting that thing. But we can do, no, it wasn't position meeting. What was it? Was it place? Which was it? One of these returns a oh, there we go. Actually, we might want to do collision line instead. Okay, so let's try this. If collision line, collision is spelled wrong. There we go. So X would be, oh, actually, let's do this real quick. Our collision line X1, collision line X2, our collision line Y1, our collision line Y2 equals or length dir x. That length, let's see, the arrow is only like 14 in size, so let's just go 6 to be safe. So 6. Then the direction will start with the arrow angle plus 90, no, plus 180 to do one side, and then we're going to do the other side like this. Oh. Oh, we do actually need this though. Okay. Then I think we can just do the same thing. Let's find out. So, Y. No, hold on. Yeah, no, that's correct. We just need to switch this to Y. Remove the 180, and we should be golden. If collision line X1 is going to be var collision line X1, var collision line Y1, var collision line X2, var collision line Y2. And then obj parent enemy precise. So precise when it comes to collisions in GameMaker, the object needs to allow for, or the sprite needs to allow for these precise hitboxes. And what that might mean is it would instead go off of the exact sprite itself. So if that exact sprite is like a crudely drawn U shape, it would, like, this arrow might be able to go through the opening of the U before it hits the bottom. And when it hits the bottom is when it actually hits the hitbox or the collision. You know, it has the collision there. So that's very unnecessary here, so we're just going to do false, not me. False, even though technically they're not even the same thing, so it does not matter. Okay. So we're going to do var enemy collision ID equals this, and then if var enemy collision ID does not equal no one, then we'll do this. Var enemy collision ID dot HP minus equals 10. Alright, let's see how this actually works. We got our dummy. Let me check his hitbox real quick. That should be fine. We're just testing this anyway. Alright. Let's see how this works. Oh, we have one problem. He is not even telling us his HP. Why is that? Why are you not doing it? So what this means is it'll, no matter what, inherit the event from the parent, which would be the draw event. Of course, we could also do more with this drawing right after this. So, let's see if this works now. It does not, which is a little bit odd. I'm kind of confused. Oh, you know what it probably is? I didn't even set the parent. That would explain quite a bit, so I don't believe I even need this in that case. Let's try this one more time. Well, not one more time. Hey, look at this. He's telling us his HP, exactly like he's supposed to. Oh, I missed, and I missed again. And I am doing wonderful. There we... oh, geez. That's not supposed to happen. What did we do wrong here? Should just be minus equals 10. And then the instance is destroying itself. So why is it doing a lot more damage? I mean, this might do the trick. Let's find out. If we're breaking the for loop, then it won't try to move anymore, and it won't try to do damage anymore, and it'll just destroy itself. Ideally. I am aiming this so well. Oh my goodness. There we go. Alright. That's exactly what we want. Now, of course, we don't want the player to be able to go through it, but that's fine. Alright. What time is it? It's 2:55 a.m. Jeez. I have work at 10 a.m. tomorrow. How long have I even been recording? Let me check real quick. I have been recording for roughly 45 minutes. So, you know what? This has been good progress for one night. I think I'm going to call it here. Let's see, how many people are watching? No one is watching. That is just fine. For anyone who happens to watch this in the future, I hope you found it interesting and maybe helpful if you're trying to get into development with a game maker yourself. I hope you have a wonderful day or night or whatever time it is. Thank you.